Welcome to Empress Janet. I have some information I want to share with you. Do you care for Joe or do you want Joe to go? Some of us want Joe to stay, some of us want Joe to go. Well, guess what, Joe? What do you know? I've got some proof, so let's see.
Now, Scott Morrison had a win on the world stage at the G7 with China. It was a significant shift, with Europe finally starting to acknowledge the threat China poses after repeated warnings from the US and Australia. Remember, it wasn't so long ago the UK was refusing to tear up its agreement with Huawei. Mike Pompeo had to make a trip to try and convince Boris Johnson of the national security threat that this deal posed. Morrison met world leaders this week detailing the extent of the pressure Australia has been under from China. The economic coercion, the trade retaliation, the bullying. He tabled China's list of demands to Australia that included how we've blocked foreign investment decisions on national security grounds, that we've introduced foreign interference legislation, our call for an inquiry into the origins of COVID-19, and how we've supposedly interfered in China's human rights abuses by calling them out. It also mentioned our unfriendly media and think tanks. Prime Minister Morrison made his case clear that the tensions in our region are now other leaders' problems as well. And none of them would put up with China dictating terms like they have to Australia that are fundamentally counter to our very values of freedom of speech, democracy, and sovereignty.
At this moment in history, international institutions like the OECD, institutions founded, I stress, on liberal, democratic, market-based economic models and values, they are more important than ever for stability in our world and in the various regions from which we come.
The final G7 communique included a rebuke of China for its takeover of Hong Kong, its human rights abuses, and its non-market practices that undermine the fair and transparent operation of the global economy. Another focal point this week, of course, was Russia. The US President Joe Biden struggled to lay a glove on Putin during their first face-to-face meet. He also struggled to even communicate.
In a weekend interview, Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer? And I'll continue the trend if you don't mind of asking a second question. Do you believe if he does agree to cooperate, then what kind of a challenge do you find yourself in? How would you ever trust him? And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. They actually, well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do. But look, when I was asked that question on air, I answered it honestly. But it's not much of a, I don't think it matters a whole lot in terms of this next meeting we're about to have.
And that wasn't the only time Biden fumbled through a press conference on the world stage.
We could work together with Russia, for example, in Libya, or the rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, and for example, in Libya.
It begs the question, why can't the United States manage to elect a decent president? You've gone from a blatantly sexist president who spoke about grabbing you-know-what and suggested a journalist had her period when she questioned him, to a president who clearly has cognitive issues. The left don't seem to care if their president is not fully capable of mental clarity, as long as he's not Trump. Biden even this week got away with wagging his finger in a sexist and patronizing way towards a female journalist who was just doing her job. But even worse, he told her that she wasn't good enough to do her job.
Change his behavior, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'm not confident in change behavior. What the hell? What do you do all the time?
So
when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
You're in the wrong business, he said.
Wow.
And his friendly media didn't seem to mind at all. And when he apologized later, briefly, for being a wise guy, didn't apologize for being patronizing or offensive or sexist. Even the journalist himself said he didn't have to. That was a CNN journalist. The origins of COVID was also a topic at the G7, where leaders reiterated calls for an inquiry into how the pandemic started. Biden and Morrison both now say that they do not know whether it was a laboratory leak or of natural origin. But Boris Johnson wasn't as forthcoming.
At the moment, the advice that we've had is it doesn't look as though this particular disease of zoonotic origin came from a lab. Clearly, anybody sensible would want to keep an open mind.
He has no evidence to say that. Biden gave perhaps his strongest push yet for more transparency from China on the origins of the pandemic.
We don't know, we haven't had access to the laboratories to determine whether or not, I have not reached a conclusion because our intelligence community is not certain yet, whether or not this was a consequence of from the marketplace of a bat and interfacing with animals in the environment that caused this COVID-19.
And our Foreign Minister, Marise Payne, has again reiterated her call for a proper inquiry into the origins of the virus, something that you'll remember she started arguing for in April last year.
What is very important here is that we do maintain the momentum of this inquiry process. We know that the phase 1 inquiry had significant limitations in terms of the delay in deploying it, access to information, access to appropriate scientific and medical evidence. So we are very determined to work with our partners to ensure that the phase 2 investigation is able to access the material that it needs, including within China.
Clearly, Boris Johnson is out of step with the international community, which is calling for a thorough inquiry, and even with the World Health Organization, which conducted the initial whitewash and now says the lab leak needs to be investigated.
Thank you for watching. If you like the content, please like and subscribe to my Empress Janet channel. Mr. President Joe Biden, shout outs. I guess a little controversy, a little drama there, buddy. No pointing your finger. And then they always say sorry, don't they? Sorry, not sorry. But again, take care. Good luck and be great. Tell the truth, guys. Walk in forgiveness.